My name is Nadine Merritt. I am 57 years old. That morning in London, the rain had started early, thin and steady against the kitchen glass. I was halfway through my first cup of coffee when my phone buzzed on the counter. The caller ID read Charleston, South Carolina. For a moment, I almost didn't answer. Mrs. Merritt, said Mr. Tillman, my husband's lawyer. His voice was polite, measured. The way people sound before they break bad news. I'm afraid there's been a development with Mr. Merritt's estate. The spoon in my cup stopped moving. What kind of development? He hesitated. The condo your husband left you, it's been sold. The transfer was filed 2 weeks ago. I thought I had misheard him. Sold. Yes, signed under your name. A pause. Then quieter. We believe the signature was forged. The word didn't land right away. I looked around the small London kitchen as if the walls might steady me. The air smelled of rain and burnt toast. Who signed it? There was another pause. Your daughter. Mallory. Her name came out like a foreign sound. I sat down slowly, pressing my hand against the counter until I felt the edge bite my palm. Mr. Tillman kept talking something about property records, bank clearances, but the words slid past me. Mallory had my power of attorney while I was abroad. She'd insisted it would make things easier in case documents needed signing. I'd trusted her. Of course I had. Nadine, he said gently, the papers were filed fast? Too fast. I'll start reviewing the notary stamps. We'll get to the truth. Thank you. I managed. My voice didn't sound like mine. When the call ended, the rain was still falling. I stood there in the quiet, the coffee turning cold, and reached for my husband's photograph on the shelf. Daniel, I whispered. What did we raise after the call? I sat in silence until the clock struck 9. Then I found myself walking to the small desk by the window, pulling out the folder Daniel had labeled for Nadine. Inside were copies of the will, a few photographs, and a letter he'd written in his last weeks. The paper still smelled faintly of cedar he used to sand wood late into the night just to calm his hands. I could hear his voice as I read it again. The condo is yours. D. Promise me you'll keep the light by the window on at night. It will make the place feel alive. That was Daniel always building, always believing that light could fix what grief left behind. He'd bought the condo after his diagnosis, saying he wanted me to have a place that listens. It sat above the Charleston harbor, with a balcony that caught the tide's reflection every evening. He carved our initials into the kitchen table the day he moved the last box in. When he passed, Mallory stood beside me at the funeral, her face still, her hand briefly in mine. A week later, she told me she would handle everything practical. It's just a building. Mom, she'd said, you can't live inside memories. I'd let the words pass. She was grieving too. I told myself. We both were. But now, those same words cut through me like a truth I'd refused to see. I called her that night, but it went straight to voicemail. The sound of her recorded voice, bright, effortless, made my throat tighten. I didn't leave a message. Instead, I wrote her an email. Simple and direct, Mallory. Call me as soon as you can. It's important. Then I stared at Daniel's photograph again, tracing the edge of the frame. He'd trusted her as much as I had. The phone stayed silent. Outside, London's streetlight flickered across the glass. A weak imitation of Charleston's golden glow. I pressed my palm against the folder, as if holding on could bring the harbor closer. Daniel had left me peace. Mallory had turned it into proof that peace never lasts. When Mallory was little, she used to sit on Daniel's lap while he carved. She'd hold the brush for him, pretending to help, and he'd always say, "Every mark leaves a story, kiddo. Remember that." She'd nod solemnly, then draw a heart right in the middle of his blueprints. Somewhere between those small hands and the woman she became, something hardened. After Daniel died, she stopped coming by the workshop. She packed his tools into boxes before I could touch them, saying, "You don't need to live in sawdust and ghosts." I tried to understand. She'd been 25, ambitious, building a marketing career in Atlanta. She was already talking about promotions, investments, a future that didn't include home-cooked dinners or family rituals. I told her to slow down once, to give herself space to grieve. Her reply was sharp. "You stayed stuck after Dad. I won't." It wasn't the words that stung, it was how calm she was saying them. Like she'd already decided I was the cautionary tale she'd never become. When she called that summer, her tone was polite, distant. "I'll take care of the condo paperwork for you. Mom, you shouldn't stress over legal things." I remember saying, "I can handle it." "Mallory, sure," she'd replied lightly. "But you always forget deadlines. Let me help." That was her way. Help meant control. Concern meant correction. I let her do it because I was tired. Because she was my daughter. Because love had become an instinct stronger than suspicion. I think now about all the times I stayed silent. The birthdays she missed. The Christmas she sent a gift card instead of coming home. I told my friends she was busy. The truth was, she was bored with me, with Charleston, with the past. She once told a friend on speakerphone, not knowing I could hear, "My mom still talks to Dad like he's in the room. It's kind of sad." I'd pretended not to notice. I kept pretending for years. Now, staring at her forged signature on Daniel's legacy, I realized she'd learned something from me after all. How silence can be used to get what you want. Mr. Tillman called again the next morning. His tone was brisk, clipped the way people sound when trying to stay calm for someone else's sake. "I've gone through the documents. Nadine," he said, "the notary seal on the transfer doesn't exist. It's copied from an old file." I leaned against the counter, copied yes. "The date is the same as your husband's final will, 2 years old. She didn't even change it." There was a pause, then a quiet sigh. Silly girl. She thought no one would notice. The words landed heavier than he meant them to. Silly girl. That was what Daniel used to say when Mallory tried to fix a chair she couldn't lift. I swallowed hard. "So it's proven it's enough to open an investigation. I'll need your permission to pull financial records and file a fraud alert." I hesitated, staring at my reflection in the dark window. "Do it," I said. "Whatever you have to." "Understood. Nadine, I know this isn't just business." "No," I said. "It's family." After he hung up, I opened my laptop. The scan of the transfer form sat in my inbox. My name, my careful, slanted handwriting was there, but the loops were wrong. Mallory always pressed too hard when she wrote, like she needed the pen to leave a scar. The condo's value read $320,000. I imagined her smiling through the meeting, signing my name, telling herself it was justified. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Then I typed one reply. "It's already hard enough." The message stayed delivered, unread. Somewhere between trust and truth, the distance between us had turned into something I couldn't cross. I didn't call Mallory. Not that day. Not the next. Instead, I went through every drawer in the flat, searching for what Daniel had left me the letters. The scanned will, the last note he wrote before the hospital took him. Each page carried his handwriting. Small and patient. He always wrote like he built things steady, deliberate, never rushed. Mallory's imitation looked close. But Daniel had once said, "Real things never hide their edges." By evening, the table was covered with papers. I began comparing the two signatures Daniel's will beside the forged deed. Her lines were too thick, the ink pressed too deep. She wanted it to look strong. It looked desperate instead. I opened my email archives, scrolling back through months of messages. There it was, the last transfer notice Mallory had forwarded to me. The attachment name read, finalization _trust ... DOC ... The word trust made something twist in my chest. ... At midnight ... I created a new folder on my desktop and titled it Truth ... I started saving everything inside letters, scans, voicemails, photos of Daniel's handwriting from old birthday cards. My phone rang once. Her name flashed on the screen. I let it ring until it stopped. Then I recorded my own message to Mr. Tillman, keep digging. I'll send you everything I have. When the message ended, I sat in the dim light for a long time, my fingers resting on the folder's title. Silence filled the room, heavy but clean. Daniel used to tell me that quiet was never weakness. It was where decisions learned to breathe. I closed the laptop. If Mallory believed my silence meant surrender, she was about to learn what quiet could do. 3 days passed before my phone lit up with her name. For a moment, I just stared at it, Mallory Merritt. My thumb hovered over the screen until the ringing nearly stopped. Then I answered. Mom. Her voice burst through, bright and practiced. You won't believe how busy I've been. Guess what? The condo sold last week. Finally closed 3 weeks after Daniel's passing. My stomach turned. But I kept my tone level. Sold. Yep, she said cheerfully. Cash offer $320,000. I handled everything myself. The realtor said I was a natural. I moved to the desk, pressing the phone to speaker and opening the recorder. You handled it, I repeated. Don't sound so shocked, she laughed. I know how you get with paperwork. I figured it was easier if I just signed for you. I had power of attorney anyway. That expired last year. I said quietly. A pause. Oh, well, whatever, it worked out. The money's in the account. I'll wire you $10,000 next week, help with your rent over there. Her generosity burned like acid. $10,000 from what Daniel left me, she sighed, irritation creeping in. Mom, you're not exactly using it. I'm trying to be practical. You're living alone in London, painting for fun. I'm managing real responsibilities back home. I swallowed the tremor in my voice. You forged my name. Watch it. She snapped. You don't know what you're talking about, Mr. Tillman found inconsistencies. The seal, the date. For a long moment, there was only her breathing. Then a laugh, sharp and brittle. He's milking you for money. Don't embarrass yourself with this drama. I leaned against the table, letting silence stretch. She hated silence. Look, she said finally, her voice hardening. This isn't a big deal. I did what Dad would have wanted, kept things in the family. You should be thanking me. Thanking you, I repeated slowly. For selling what he left me, for handling things like an adult, she bit out. You never could. Something inside me settled cold. Certain. I reached for the laptop, watching the recording light blink steady red. Mallory, I said softly. I hope you kept a copy of the papers, of course. Why? Because you'll need them. Her exhale crackled through the speaker, half laugh, half warning. Then the line went dead. The room stayed quiet. Only the faint hum of the recorder remained, proof that pride had spoken louder than guilt. I sent the recording to Mr. Tillman before sunrise. The message was short. Proceed with everything you have. He replied within an hour, concise. Professional. The evidence is solid. We'll file immediately. By noon. The fraud report was submitted. The proceeds from the condo sale were frozen. The buyer notified, and the investigation officially began. I thought I would feel relief, but the quiet that followed felt heavier than guilt. The first call came that evening. "Mom, what did you do?" Mallory's voice was sharp, panicked. "My bank just froze my accounts. They're saying something about a fraud hold." I closed my eyes. "You should talk to your lawyer." "Don't do this," she hissed. "You can fix it. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. It wasn't." "Mom, please." Her voice cracked for the first time. "You're ruining me." I took a breath. Steady. "Even. I didn't ruin you, darling. The truth did." There was a long silence. I could almost hear her breathing, uneven, scared. For a moment, I wanted to take it back to say something soft, something maternal. But then I remembered Daniel's letter, his handwriting steady as he wrote, "Protect what's yours. Even from those you love, you'll regret this," she said finally, her voice trembling. "Maybe," I answered, "but at least I'll still have my name." The line went dead. I sat there listening to the echo in my ear, the sound of everything that used to bind us unraveling one thread at a time. Outside, the phone kept lighting up. One missed call after another. I didn't answer. I let the proof speak for me. By the next morning, the phones wouldn't stop. First came my sister-in-law, then an aunt I hadn't spoken to in years. Each message carried the same careful tone, like they were reading from a script someone else had written. "Nadine, she's young. People make mistakes. She's your only child. Don't throw her away over money." I deleted each one. The words weren't about love, they were about comfort. The kind that keeps a family's reputation clean. That evening, my mother called. Her voice was thin but steady. "I spoke to Mallory. She's devastated." "Nadine, she says you froze her accounts. You didn't really do that, did you?" "I did." A soft sigh crackled through the line. "She's still your daughter. Then she should have acted like one." "Don't talk that way," she said sharply. "You've always been too proud." What happened to kindness? Kindness doesn't erase signatures. "Mom, you're being cruel." "No," I said quietly. "I'm being clear." The silence stretched until I could hear her breath hitch. For years, I had let her convince me that silence was peace, that letting things go was strength. But now, my own calm voice sounded like something I'd earned. "She'll never forgive you for this," my mother whispered. "Maybe not," I said, "but at least she'll remember it." The call ended without a goodbye. I sat there staring at the empty screen, realizing how small my world had become, just me, a lawyer's voice on the other end of the line, and the truth sitting between us like a wall no one wanted to touch. The phone rang again. I didn't pick up. Some lessons, I'd decided, needed to stay unanswered. "Mr. Tillman called early Monday morning. His tone was different this time, steady, almost relieved. "We found it," he said. "The mistake that ends this." I tightened my grip on the phone. "Tell me." She used her company's notary stamp on the transfer papers. Same serial number. Same timestamp. It's public record. There's no way around it. For a moment, I couldn't speak. The weight of all those nights gathering proof seemed to lift, only to leave something heavier behind. What happens now? We've reached her attorney. She's agreed to a full settlement repayment to the buyers and a signed statement admitting the forgery. I closed my eyes. She signed it. Yes. It's notarized properly this time. The condo's legal ownership is finally undisputed. Later that day, the email arrived. A scanned copy of the letter sat in my inbox. Mallory Merritt, acknowledge falsifying legal documents and authorizing the unlawful sale of property belonging to my mother, Nadine Merritt. Her handwriting looked small, rushed. She'd pressed the pen too hard, like always. "Mr. Tillman called again that evening. The buyers have been reimbursed. The title's back in your name. It's over. Nothing about this feels over, I said quietly. I know, he replied. But justice isn't about feeling better. It's about being right. After we hung up, I printed her letter and placed it beside Daniel's. His writing was careful, hers frantic. Between them lay the distance of everything I'd tried to protect and everything I'd lost doing it. The lamp flickered beside me. I turned it off, letting the room fall into darkness, the papers glowing faintly in the light of my screen. Justice had arrived. It just didn't bring peace with it. 3 months later, I stood once more inside the condo overlooking Charleston Harbor. The rooms were bare now, just sunlight and echoes. The lawyer's paperwork lay folded in my bag, the last signature still drying in ink. When the realtor arrived, she hesitated at the doorway. You sure you're ready? I was ready the moment I knew it was mine again, I said. She nodded, respectful. By evening, the offer came through. $280,000. Fair. Slightly below market value. Honest. Clean. I signed the sale the next morning without hesitation. Then I called Mr. Tillman. I'd like part of it donated, I said. A scholarship fund for young artists who can't afford tuition. Call it the Nadine Merritt Grant. He smiled through the line. He'd like that. I know. When the funds cleared, I rented a small studio near the harbor, a narrow room with high windows and paint already on the floor. I called it Harbor Light Studio. Most days, I taught evening classes, helping retired women sketch the world they thought they'd forgotten how to see. Mallory never called again. Sometimes I checked her name online, found nothing new, and closed the screen. That absence no longer hurt, it just existed. Like the tide. One night, after class, I stepped onto the porch. The air smelled of salt and faint rain. Across the water, the city lights shimmered like they were waiting for something. I turned on the small lantern I'd brought from the condo and set it by the railing. Daniel once told me that every light is a promise to return. I think now it's more than that. It's a reminder to stay. I stood there a while, the glow reflecting off the harbor, warm and steady against the dark, a promise to myself, a tribute to Daniel's memory. Peace doesn't mean forgetting, I whispered. It means breathing again. The light stayed on long after I went inside.